Sony soundbars have always been a great option if you want a soundbar with a whole lot of bass without actually needing an external subwoofer. Now, obviously, an external subwoofer is going to give you a more immersive viewing experience, but some people might just not want or have the space for an external subwoofer. So that's where Sony soundbars come in. So today we are going to compare the Sony HT-A3000 to the Sony HT-A5000. We're going on pricing. The HT-A3000 has a retail price of $700, but it now likes to go on sale for $500. And the HT-A5000 has a retail price of $1,000, but it now likes to go on sale for $700. Now, both of these soundbars are good options if you have a Sony TV, but you can definitely still use either of these two Sony soundbars with a non-Sony TV. Nonetheless, if you want to pick either of these two soundbars up, they'll be linked down below. And if you want to further support the channel, pick up a Big Head approved hat, link down below. We've got trucker hats and snapbacks. By buying a hat, you help the unbiased and unsponsored videos coming, and it also helps us cover more products and produce more versus videos. Thank you to everyone who's already bought a hat, and look out for more designs coming soon. And also, please remember to hit that like button and let's get subscribed. Now first, I do have to point out that in this video, we're only going to be using these soundbars by themselves, because with both of these soundbars, you can always build them out by adding an external subwoofer and or rear satellite speakers. And with Sony, you do have different subwoofers and different rear satellite speakers to choose from. But in this video, we're only going to be looking at the soundbars themselves. However, since both of these soundbars have support for Sony's Bravia Acoustic Center Sync, and since we are using the 2023 Sony Bravia X90 LTV, we will be using Acoustic Center Sync when we do the sound test with these soundbars. Now, what Acoustic Center Sync is, basically the internal speakers built into your TV will work in conjunction with the soundbar itself. So this way, you're going to have a stronger sounding center channel. Now, you can use any soundbar with your Sony TV, but it is recommended that if you have a TV that has a support for Sony Bravia's Acoustic Center Sync, it is recommended that you use a soundbar that has support for Sony Bravia's Acoustic Center Sync as well, because this way you're going to get the most out of your TV, as in your TV's built-in speakers will work in conjunction with your soundbar. And vice versa. You can always use these Sony soundbars with a non-Sony TV, but if you use them with a non-Sony TV, then you will be missing out on a few features. Now, when it comes to the overall design of these soundbars, Sony soundbars are big and they are a little heavy. The A3000 has a length of 37.5 inches, a width of 5 inches, and a height of 2.5 inches. Whereas the A5000 has a length of 48 inches, but the width and height are the same. But when it comes to ports, both the A3000 and the A5000 have an HDMI eARC port that goes connected to your TV, and they both come included with a decent HDMI cable, and they both have a USB-A port, so you can plug in a USB stick and play music off of it. And both of these soundbars also have an optical port, just in case your TV doesn't have an HDMI eARC port. But in general, if your TV doesn't have an HDMI ARC port, it is time for you to upgrade your TV, because in general, you do want to make sure to connect your soundbar to your TV by using an HDMI connection. But also, both of these soundbars have your S-Center out, which is what you use for the Bravia Acoustic Center Sync. But the main port difference between the A3000 and the A5000 is that the A5000 has an HDMI in port, so you can plug in, let's say, your Blu-ray player or your PlayStation directly into the soundbar itself, and then you can connect the soundbar to your TV. Now, when it comes to wireless connectivity, both of these soundbars have Wi-Fi, and both of these soundbars have support for AirPlay 2 and Chromecast. So whether you're an iPhone or an Android user, as long as you're connected to the same Wi-Fi network as these soundbars, you can always stream music to them. But these soundbars also have support for Bluetooth, so you're not going to need a Wi-Fi connection to stream music to the soundbars, because you can always just use a Bluetooth connection. Now, both of these soundbars also come included with the same remote, and personally, I do feel these remotes are a little busy and they aren't as sleek as the new remote that comes included with the new Sony S2000. But I do prefer to use the A3000 and A5000 as remotes, because I feel that their app is a little clunky. But since these are Sony soundbars, and if you use them with a Sony TV, your menu settings will show up directly on the TV itself. So you're not even going to have to need to use their app or their separate remote. But with all of that out of the way, let's talk about sound. Now, when it comes to speaker setups, the A5000 has 3 front-mode firing speakers, and it has a dual front-mode firing subwoofer subwoofers with exhaust ports that shoot out the sides. But then there's the A5000. Now the A5000 also has a dual front-mount firing subwoofers with exhaust ports that shoot out the sides, and it also has 3 front-mount firing speakers. But the A5000 also has a pair of outward firing speakers, which gives this speaker true Dolby Atmos support, and it also has a pair of tweeters that shoot out the sides. But now we're going to jump into the sound test. Now both of these soundbars are going to be playing at 75% volume. However, since we are using a Sony TV, in this case we're using the 2023 Sony Bravia X90L, and since the X90L does have support for Sony Bravia's acoustic center sync, both of these soundbars are going to be using acoustic center sync as well, as in the internal speakers on the TV are going to be helping the soundbars to give us a stronger central channel. However, we're also going to be using the built-in speakers on the X90L by themselves, and we're going to be using them at max volume, and they're going to be our baseline.
Lately you don't feel like yourself, you kinda hate it. You suppress all of the thoughts in your head and say it's complicated. You hide your pain, but I can see it. It's on your face, I know the feeling. Swear you're okay, but you better treat it. Don't you walk away. Feel you getting lost, feel you trailing off. Feel it in your words when you say there's nothing wrong. There's something so subliminal. Way that your hands shake whenever you talk. You stare into space like you're lost in your thoughts. Surrounded by the paper. Tell me what's been going on. Tell me what's been going on. I'm so caught up thinking about myself that I took time to listen. Didn't see that you were going through hell. Now you're cold and distant. You say you're fine, but your heart is bleeding. Read me those lines, they lost the meaning. Oh, something is alive, these demons in your eyes. I know you're afraid. Feel you getting lost, feel you trailing off. Feel it in your words when you say there's nothing wrong. There's something so subliminal. Way that your hands shake whenever you talk. Stare into space like you're lost in your thoughts. Surrounded by the paper walls. Tell me what's been going on. Tell me what's been going on. Tell me now. You never rest. You never come. How can you room? I'm so done. Tell me what's been going on. Tell me what's been going on. I feel it in your eyes. I feel it now. I feel it in your eyes when you say there's nothing wrong. There's something so subliminal. I got the feeling to action whenever you talk. You stare into space like you're lost in your thoughts. Surrounded by paper walls. Tell me what's been going on.
So, like you may have just heard, obviously any soundbar is going to sound better than your TV's built-in speakers. Your TV most likely just has a pair of downward firing speakers that bounce sound off of the table. If it isn't wall mounted like mine is, they don't get all that loud, and their bass can get distorted if the bass really gets going. Now, the built-in speakers on the Sony X90Ls get decently loud, and distortion isn't a big problem for them at louder volumes, like with some more affordable TVs out there. But even with the Sony X90L, if you want to fully enjoy your movies, then you are going to want to invest in a soundbar. Now first, when it comes to max volume performance, the A3000 is going to be able to easily fill a small or medium-sized living room with sound, and it's also going to do an okay job of filling a larger room with sound as well. But with the A5000, it's going to get louder, and it's going to do a better job of filling a larger living room with sound. So obviously, the larger the speaker here and the more drivers you have, the louder it is going to get. Now, sound signature-wise, Sony soundbars do have a warmer sound signature to them, and these things do have a lot of bass. Now, don't expect the bass on these soundbars to rattle any walls, but with the bass on these soundbars, you are going to be able to feel what's happening on the screen. And in general, Sony soundbars, the bass on them do tend to resonate much deeper and much cleaner than the bass on a lot of other soundbars out there. But the thing about Sony soundbars is, yes, they have a warmer sound signature to them, and at higher volumes, they sound very immersive. But at lower volumes, due to their warmer sound signature, it can be a little difficult to hear dialogue with them. Now, these soundbars do have a voice mode, which is going to up the mids and treble on these soundbars, making it easier for you to actually hear people's voices. But still, sometimes it can be a little difficult to hear dialogue with these soundbars at lower volumes. But at higher volumes, these soundbars do sound very immersive. But the main performance difference between the A3000 and A5000 is going to come down to how open these soundbars sound. Now, with the A5000, since the soundbar does have upward firing drivers, there is a sense of verticality to this soundbar, and also the highs on the A5000 are more detailed because this soundbar does have additional tweeters that shoot out the sides, which are not found on the A3000. So with all that being said, if you are trying to pick a soundbar for your Sony TV that has support for acoustic center sync, then your best option is to go with a Sony soundbar that also has support for acoustic center sync, because then this way your TV's built-in speakers will work in conjunction with your soundbar. But even still, you can use both of these Sony soundbars with a non-Sony TV, and they're good options if you want something with a lot of bass without actually needing an external subwoofer. Now, if you are trying to choose between the A3000 and the A5000, then you are better off going with the A5000 because you are going to get more volume, you're going to get better instrument separation because of the additional upward firing drivers plus the tweeters, and the highs are going to be crisper. And the A5000 also has that additional HDMI input, so if you want, you can plug in your Blu-ray player or PlayStation. But still, the A3000 is a good option if you need something a little smaller, because I do know that the A5000 is a little big, so it can be a little more difficult to place in your home theater setup, and since it is a little heavy, sometimes it can be a little bit more difficult to wall mount. If you made it this far, I guess you enjoyed the video, so hit the like button and get subscribed. If you want to pick any of the products up, they'll be linked down below. And if you want to further support the channel, check out the merch. I made some shirts and hoodies that look and feel great. And you know I can be very particular, so I'll only slap my name on something if I'm really proud of it.